Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Tennessee, and Virginia. Listen up. WynnBET is now live in all these states, and the excitement of Wynn Las Vegas has finally landed in online sports betting and casino play. From boosted parlays to live in-game offs on every major sport, WynnBET gives you the tools to win. Sign up today for your risk-free $1,000 sports bet. Download the WynnBET app now or visit wynnbet.com to start winning.
You're listening to the Huddle Up Podcast with Chad Jensen and Zack Kelberman. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com and sound off. And now it's time to drop some knowledge.
And we're good. So welcome in, everybody. It is the Huddle Up Podcast, presented as always by Mile High Huddle and powered by Blue Wire Podcasts. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, I know the story has not hit our wire quite yet at milehighhuddle.com. That is coming. But the Broncos, we'll get to a lot of different topics that came out of Broncos HQ today, but the team signed former second team All-Pro, former Pro Bowl safety, and former first-round pick from Alabama's Clinton Dix. What was your reaction to that? What do you think it's about?
I mean, as I wrote, I'm literally writing the story while we're podcasting right now, but I said it's not too often you're able to pluck a former NFL All-Star off the scrap heap, yet that's exactly what the Broncos did in signing Clinton Dix. You mentioned his laudables already, All-Pro, former Pro Bowler, former first-round pick. Was a star with the Packers and then kind of fell off. He was with Washington, then Chicago, most recently Vegas for 2 games, but he's not the same player as he was. But fortunately for the Broncos, they're fine at safety. They have Simmons, obviously, Kareem Jackson, Kaden Stearns, Jamar Johnson. They're fine there. But to put this guy on your practice squad, that's good insurance to have. It's no different than signing Avery Williamson, Kenny Young before he got promoted. The fact that George Paton's able to identify these players that are out there and sign them, bring them aboard to the practice squad, no commitment at all, and all the upside in the world potentially, another sign of great general managering. So how could you hate this move?
Love it. We are creating words on this pod. We do it all the time. General managering. Book it. And don't forget, credit Zack Kelberman.
Bing bong.
On that front, bro, check this out. 6'1", 211, always a long kind of physically imposing, not in a Steve Atwater way as far as like, I'm going to pop the teeth out of your mouth, but just like a long guy that's kind of scrappy, and he can be physical, but he is 28. He's about to turn 29 years old in just a week or so. But look at his stats, as you mentioned. First-round pick of the Packers. He had a Pro Bowl / All-Pro year in 2016. And that season, he threw down 65 solo tackles, a couple of tackles for a loss. Let's see, where's his PDs? 7 passes defensed, 5 picks. You get 5 picks as a safety, Zack, more often than not, you're going to find yourself in the Pro Bowl, which I hope Justin Simmons does for what it's worth. He's already at 5 right now. But that's, that was kind of his peak. And then 16-game starter and 17 for the Packers. Not quite as prolific as far as interceptions, but he ended up with more solo tackles, so for what it's worth. And then, of course, he ends up playing for both Green Bay and Washington in 18. 2019, as Vic goes out the door, he joins the Bears and plays for Chuck Pagano, 16-game starter, 2 picks that year. And then this year, Zack, kind of up and down as far as where he's been, right? He spent a little time with San Francisco, spent a little time with the Raiders, and now he is a Bronco. So as you mentioned, for depth purposes, I mean, having Clinton Dix on the PS, right, for a game day elevation and see if you need him, I mean, that's a first world problem right there. Listen up, Broncos country. TickPick should be your first choice to buy football tickets because they save fans money by never charging any service fees ever. TickPick is the exclusive ticketing partner for the Huddle Up Podcast and the Blue Wire Network.
Denver Broncos football is finally back, and there's no need to exhaust yourself searching all over the internet to find Broncos tickets anymore because TickPick, That's TickPick is the original no-fee ticket site and the only one you'll ever need as your go-to for all NFL tickets. TickPick got rid of all those awful service fees that the other ticket sites charge, which lets them guarantee the best prices on all of their NFL tickets. Don't believe it? If you can find better prices for the same seats on another ticket site, TickPick will give you 110% of the difference in the purchase price.
That's right, guys. When we were searching for tickets for the MHH meet and greet for Week 3 at home, Broncos versus Jets, TickPick had us locked down. So visit tickpick.com/huddle today and use the promo code HUDDLE to save $10 on your first order of Broncos tickets.
Yeah, you mentioned his interceptions and the fact that he made the Pro Bowl. It helps to be a first-round pick. If Simmons was a first-round pick, he would have more, honors and accolades to his name. I would prefer the Broncos funnel whatever snaps they're not going to give Simmons and Kareem Jackson to Kaden Stearns. I think he's the future at safety, obviously opposite Simmons. But again, on the practice squad, if anything should come up, he's a veteran. He was pretty bad last year in Cowboys camp. That was one thing that wasn't mentioned on his stats right there, but he was with the Cowboys. He was cut before the season. He was looking pretty washed. Again, though, you don't have to rely on him. You're not looking to get the old ha-ha Clinton Dix or rely on that as an insurance break glass in case of emergency. You could do a lot worse.
Guys, as we continue to dive into this topic and say hello to the chat, we got to bring you up to speed on where things stand on the Facebook contest. Of course, our goal as a channel on Facebook is to get to 250,000 stars. And stars, of course, as you know, are like super chats. It's a way for our community to support your favorite podcast host, your favorite podcast, help keep the lights on here at MHH. And when we reach this goal of 250,000 stars, we're going to raffle off a Broncos jersey of the winner's choice. And of course, the only people in the running for that raffle are those who have contributed to the goal. As you can see, we've got about 90,000, just shy of 91 in the books, which puts us at about 36% complete to the goal. And as you know, we're today and somewhere between right now and about noon tomorrow, we're going to cross the 50% mark of the month. So we're behind the 8 ball a little bit. We're going to have to kind of goose it if we're going to hit goal. But here's who's in the running. If you want to see where you stand, who's going to have the most tickets in the raffle right now, Travis Weber on top in the month of December. Love seeing that. Thank you, Travis. Shane, the Aviator, at number 2. Miguel at 3. That's great. Lawrence Rivera at 4. Andrew Baker, 5. Andrew Lampy, Battle of the Andrews, at 5 and 6. Peter Middleton at 7, across the pond. Yvonne down in Mexico. Some really interesting news coming out today about Mexico relative to the Broncos that we can cover here in a little bit. Doug Raquel at 9. And Rando up in the Great White North of Alaska at 10. And Randy, your jersey should be coming anytime, my friend. When you get that, be sure to let us know and send us a profile pic. But mad props, big love to each and every one of you. We'll update the Super Chat rankings here in just a few minutes. But Zach, you also had a story. There was some news that broke. Now that I mentioned it, I can't remember if it was PFF or if it was a different source, but that Teddy Bridgewater is seeking $25 million a year on his next contract. Today he addressed that rumor. What did he say, and what was your reaction?
Well, it was PFF that had the contract projection, and it seemed like we drummed up that story because no one was talking about his next contract before we wrote that story for MHH.com, what PFF predicted. And smartly, before Sunday's game against the Lions, Ben Albright of KOA Radio checked into the situation, and he reported that Teddy's looking for $25 million per year, to which Teddy said, it's not true, it's false. And then he gave the big cliched Teddy-like response when he said, I'm just here to win football games. My agent, my advisors, they handle all of that. I'm not thinking about that right now. But he made a point to say it's unequivocally false what's out there. I don't know. There's a reason why it was leaked to begin with, though. There's a reason why Albright's been pretty rock solid when he checks into something, and the fact that he heard that, and then what it aligns with PFF, Teddy's in the midst of a career year. He's already thrown for more passing touchdowns than he ever has. He's on pace to set career highs in completions and attempts. He knows he can cash in. He knows he's likely not the future of the Broncos, and as I wrote in my story today, rather than overpaying, which I don't think George Paton will or should do, he'll make him an offer a little below market value, I feel like, 10 or 15 million for a one-year backup mentor type role. Take it or leave it. You want to come back at that price, great. You don't want to come back, may God be with you, and good luck out there.
Hey man, go get what the market will bear. If you think you're worth $25 million, the league's going to let you know pretty quick, and I'll be interested to see how many teams tell him no on that front.
One more point, Chad.
Yeah, what you got?
It's about Teddy, $25 million per year. Looking into that would put him in the same, I would say, tax bracket, if you will, as Tom Brady and Derek Carr, who are both making $25 million per year. And if you think he's as good as either quarterback, you're as delusional as Teddy is for asking for 25 in the first place.
Amen. Broncos, for what it's worth, according to my bookie sports book, minus 2.5. So they're favored by 2.5, which, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Scott. I'm still learning a lot about, gambling and numbers, but that's basically a push, right? Like they're throwing up their hands, could go either way. Not really a hard favorite in this game. So the Broncos, man, this is a huge opportunity. And they don't have anything cinched up. We know this, but Zach, how refreshing it is. I mean, this team has its warts, don't get me wrong, but how refreshing it is to see this team playing meaningful football, being in the race down the stretch in December. It's cool. Go ahead and we'll grab Christian.
I mean, it's cool, but is that really the standard we should be striving for? Is that what Pat Bowlen laid out? Is that really the best the Broncos can do? Chad, we agree on the coaching and the quarterbacking, of course, but we both realize this team is a lot more talented than the record indicates. It's a shame that still 5 years after Peyton Manning, 6 years now, technically, we're still talking about playing meaningful December football, as that should be the barometer to achieve.
That's how bad it's been. Christian with the first super chat of the night. Thank you, my friend. In enemy territory, by the way, in Vegas. He says, not Broncos related, but did you see the report of Josh Lambo speaking up about Urban Meyer straight up kicking him just for missing field goals? Now, as Zach, and Scott knows, before we went live, I've had a pretty tumultuous 24 hours. So I haven't been as on top of the wire as I might normally be. Tell me about this.
Well, at first with all these Urban Meyer hit pieces coming out, him calling his coaching staff losers in a team meeting, I thought there may be just fake news to an extent, but the more and more of that comes out, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think he's a former Jaguars kicker now, Josh Lambo. He said in an interview, I think it was during training camp this happened, where he was attempting a field goal and Urban Meyer came up and kicked him in the leg. And he put it as a 5 out of 10 in terms of intensity for the kick. And he goes to Urban, apparently, don't you ever effing kick me again. And Urban Meyer says, I'm the head ball coach. I'll do whatever the F I want. So kind of gives you insight into how he's trying to run the Jaguars organization. He's a far cry from Columbus. This is not college anymore. And I think he's in way over his head.
Yeah, there's a big difference. And this is something, that a lot of college coaches, prolific college coaches trying to make the jump to the pros, takes them sometimes a while to really have this dawn on them that you're going from coaching kids who are fresh out of mom and dad's basement to grown-ass men that make millions of dollars, families to feed, all that. It's quite the jump. But yeah, definitely not Broncos related, but very interesting, funny. I mean, we got to see the Jaguars earlier this year, and Broncos handled them. I mean, all the drama surrounding this guy, it would not surprise me in the least, Zach, if he's one and done in Jacksonville. And he probably wouldn't be too bummed about that. The way NFL head coach contracts work, he could take his money, say thank you for whatever that was, 3-4 year deal he signed, go right back to the college, or, drown his sorrows with his tens of millions of dollars. And thank you, Mike. Appreciate you, bro.
In the college bar scene, Chad, getting lap dances from unidentified individuals, that's always the smart play for a coach like that. He belongs in college. Some like Nick Saban, some guys are bigger fish in smaller ponds, and that's where I think he belongs. The experiment was a massive failure.
Big Kev Peterson, what is good, my friend? It's great to see you in the chat. This is a bona fide Mount Rushmore super chat superstar here at MHH. Been with us since the beginning. He says, what's up, fellas? Been watching y'all after the fact, but I finally caught a live pod. Hashtag love, dude. Love right back at you. And also condolences on Duke, because I know you and Duke were close buddies as well. So hope you're hanging in there, my friend, and great to have you in the stream.
Thanks, KP.
We got George Fox also wishing a Merry Christmas to all of Broncos country and all of the MHH hosts. Rad. Thank you, buddy. Merry Christmas to you as well.
Yes. And we got Michaela jumping in, 999 Super, the Duchess, as always, gracing us with her presence. Thank you, Michaela. Hope you're having a great Wednesday and you're getting ready for the holiday season. In the spirit, she goes, I will pay Teddy what I find in my couch. Probably a little less than $25 million, wouldn't you say, Chad?
I don't know. She's a baller, you know. We
Sure.
we got to spend a good part of an afternoon with her 2 months back, and wouldn't surprise me. You know, she's a shot caller. She's a string puller. Wouldn't surprise me if you got that kind of lettuce just kind of floating around in the old couch.
Appreciate you, Michaela, as always.
Andrew Baker, good to see you, buddy. He says, just showing some love. I like Scott's take, though. If we keep Vic, will he fire some of his people? Hashtag MHH and Denver Broncos for life. Really good question. I mean, you guys, Zach, we have to really start facing the possibility that if the Broncos are able to kind of ride this emotional momentum that they seem to kind of harness from Demaryius Thomas's tragic and untimely passing, and they manage to win 3 of these final 4 games, there's a good chance they're one of those 3 wild card teams. And if Vic gets to the playoffs, even if they get bounced in like resounding fashion in the first round, I think he's coming back. So we have to face that distinct possibility. Long row left to hoe. Don't get me wrong. I mean, a lot can happen between now and the close of the season. But if they keep him, how could you Vic Fangio? It's one thing to say, look, I'm not going to fire Tom McMahon, the special teams coordinator, in the middle of the season. That's not my style, whatever. Or Pat Shurmur. He's not going to fire Pat Shurmur, by the way. But Tom McMahon, as an example, I mean, at a certain point, something's got to give.
First of all, can I just warn everyone and say and kind of pump the brakes on all the atmospheric hype that the Broncos are receiving after beating the Lions? I mean, it was the Lions, guys. Let's keep this in perspective. We've seen this movie before, after 3-0, after the Dallas game. Until the Broncos prove otherwise, we can't start punching their ticket to the postseason just yet. I do think, though, a playoff berth would ensure Fangio would return on that condition more than likely. But the problem with this is he would be in charge of hiring the next coordinator, the next offensive play caller, the next special teams guy. And what has he proven so far to give him the benefit of the doubt that he can find the right guy? If anything, he shouldn't be in charge of that. He was the problem in hiring Pat Shurmur. He was the problem in condoning the special teams incompetency. So I once again, if you really want change within Dove Valley, change on the coaching staff, you have to start from the very top. I think if you want to see the results that Broncos country is yearning for, Fangio has to go with that.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember Vic Fangio. And Cameron, thank you, my friend. He says, big fan of you guys. I think we bring a shocker and beat up the Bengals. Big day coming for Cortland Sutton. We'll cover that here in just a second, okay? But I'm old enough, Zach, to remember on Black Monday, January 2020, Vic Fangio standing at the podium, and when asked, are you anticipating making any changes to your coaching staff, him saying no, and then promptly going away for 2 weeks. Everyone kind of took a break, little 2-week vacation away from the building, and then he comes back and fires his offensive coordinator. And we've learned through our birdies, and I think there have been reports on this now too, that the move to fire Rich Scangarello and hire Pat Shurmur, of course, big reason for that was the fact that he suddenly came available. The Giants fired him as head coach.
That's why.
But the big proponent here for that move was Vic Fangio. He wanted a guy that had some head coaching, acumen, organizational kind of wherewithal that he could trust to just be the head coach of the offense. Because as we know, he doesn't even watch the offense, right? We clown about that all the time. So Pat Shurmur very much is a Vic Fangio thing. Tom McMahon, though, he also made that decision to keep him, but he did kind of inherit him from the previous coaching staff. Of course, Tom replaced the 22 Janos man himself, Brock Olivo.
Yeah.
But you know what? One last thing on topic of Vic. He also made some good hires himself, one of which being Brandon Staley, bringing him over from the Bears, and look where Staley's at now. So it's not as if he's a complete incompetent fool when it comes to spotting coaching talent. But on this offensive thing in particular, Zach, he's doesn't appear to know really what he's looking at. And the special teams thing, I mean, enough's enough.
Well, if he's such a defensive mastermind, doesn't he need to surround himself with other like-minded coaches? Shouldn't he be enough? I don't want to give him too much credit for that, specializing in his focus there. I'd rather him put those resources toward the offense. And I think you saying that back just then, he doesn't watch the offense, and he hired an offensive coordinator to be the head coach of the offense. That should have been a red flag right there. Maybe we should have taken a step back and examined why he's doing that, why he has no apparent interest in watching a major side of the ball that's been under criticism, under siege since Peyton Manning walked away. I would want a head coach that's a head coach of the entire team and doesn't leave anything, Chad. You want to have a head coach of the offense, fine. But does that head coach have to be Pat Shurmur? Can they not do anything better than Pat Shurmur in this day and age? That's my problem.
I feel you. Mike says, Zach, totally agree with your thought on replacing Fangio and the staff. You know, and then we got 727 Mill. By the way, Mill, dude, you have been so consistent lately on Super Chat when we've put out calls to action, like to support the Boynton girls after Duke's tragic passing. You stepped up to the plate like many of our great community members. Dude, let us send you a little something. Let us send you a hat or something. Shoot us an email, milehighhuddle@gmail.com, and give us your shipping address. Also, just in case, a T-shirt size. Let us send you a little something. Okay, we appreciate you. He says, not going to get my hopes up for this game. I'm tired of the heartbreak, but go Broncos. Zach, how are you feeling? We'll really do our deep dive on the Bengals, of course, tomorrow night, but how are you feeling about this opponent this week?
I mean, it's the NFL. Any team is beatable on any given Sunday. It's more than just a great movie. And the Broncos have the horse. I feel like I say this every week about every team. They have the horses to beat them, but the question is, which one of those horses will show up? Are those horses going to be fired with intensity, fired up and passionate and emotional and ready to go and ready to do battle? Or are they going to be emotionless and the equivalent of Vic Fangio standing like this? We never really know. But talent-wise, they should be able, at home, by the way, in a playoff push, playing meaningful football to take down the Bengals, beat Joe Burrow, and control that offense and do some damage against that defense. You know, George Kittle, I put this on Twitter earlier today. I watched the highlights of the game, and it seemed like every highlight against the Bengals defense was Kittle catching a pass. I looked into it. He had 13 catches, I think, for 130 or 140 yards, something like that, and a touchdown. That's the route the Broncos should go. That's what they should scheme for and game plan around, is getting Noah Fant involved, getting Albert O involved, and pairing that with their lethal rushing attack that they're finally starting to unlock. But the problem is we never know what Pat Shurmur is going to show up, what game plan is going to show up, if they're going to do the common sense thing, if they're going to do the right thing, what are they game planning for? Are they going to have Teddy throw it 40 times? My long-winded point in this is the Broncos are consistently inconsistent, and until they prove they're not, how could we have much confidence in this game? One thing I will say, though, the Cincinnati Bengals are a far cry from Detroit. So if they're reading their press clippings, they had a 4-touchdown victory against Detroit. They think they can waltz back into Mile High Stadium and take down Cincinnati. They have another thing coming. This Bengals team can run the ball. They can stop the run. They have receivers. They have a quarterback. They will beat them if the Broncos take them lightly. This is a game the Broncos have to have if they want to make the postseason, and they have to show up and play all 4 quarters starting from the opening whistle. How many times has that happened? Not many.
And, you know, this is a classic case of strength against strength. I mean, for the Bengals, they're very good against the run. And that's, of course, Denver's calling card offensively. If they have an identity at all, it's their 2-headed rushing attack. So that was a topic today, Zach, at Broncos HQ, obviously. And if you're going to talk about the Broncos running game, you're going to mention Melvin Gordon at some point. And Vic was asked about, you know, there's some out there who say that maybe aren't as appreciative of Melvin Gordon, what he brings to the offense. What would you say to those people? And he says this, quote, I don't know how Zach can underappreciate his ability. I mean, he's run the ball very well for us for 2 years. We're splitting time with him and Javonte Williams, who's a really good back, obviously. That's not just to pacify Melvin or to balance it up. He's a damn good player. I don't know what Zach is looking at if he doesn't have an appreciation for how he runs the ball, close quote.
Yeah, I appreciate the direct shade there. You know, it just seems like if you have to go out of your way to praise the $8 million running back, that in itself is also a problem. If it's even a conversation, that says more about Javonte Williams and what he's doing in a timeshare, by the way, behind the $8 million guy, forcing those questions. Great 1-2 punch, but all we can hope for is that Pat Shurmur utilizes them. Sometimes we'll have a game where they run the ball each 20 times or so, then they'll follow it up by running it 4 or 3 times combined. So whatever Pat Shurmur game plan shows up, that will dictate how the game goes on Sunday, same as any other game.
I had someone tell me not too long ago that whole Melvin Gordon, the fans in Denver don't like me thing, and what was asked to Vic today, that the Huddle Up podcast is single-handedly responsible for this. I'm like, come on, man, don't give us that much credit. Like, because here's the thing. We've never thrown shade on Melvin, the player. When we've clowned on him, it's because of the DUI.
Except when he fumbles.
And we've never liked the contract. Yeah, of course the fumbles. But I'm just saying the biggest thing was we never liked the contract. And maybe we went a little hard on that because of its implications on Phillip Lindsay at the time, right? Going back to the spring of 2020. But nevertheless, we've never said Melvin is not a good running back. We've questioned whether he's worth $8 million per year, and then we'll grab Kayaka.
Chad, I mean, looking back, I don't really regret, I don't know about you, criticizing the contract. When he's up there with the likes of the Derrick Henrys and the Nick Chubbs and the Ezekiel Elliott's, is he really one of those guys? Is he a great, not good running back? No, I think it's the other way around. I think he's a good but not great running back. So again, I don't have a problem with him personally. I don't hate the running back. I just hate the contract, and I hate sometimes the snaps and the opportunity it takes away from Javonte Williams' development. That's all.
Kayaka, another legend in the house. What's up, big dog? He says a closed mouth doesn't get fed. You can't blame the guy for asking. I just hope that he gets that contract elsewhere. Yeah, it's like what I tell my kids, all right, my sons, my daughter. I say, look, never hurts to ask. You might not always get the answer that you're looking for, but it never hurts to ask. And I'm not just talking, Zach, about, asking mom and dad for something. I'm just saying, in life, it never hurts to ask. Put it out there and see if the universe is going to serve it up to you. For Teddy Bridgewater, if and unless he leads the Broncos to a playoff berth and some modest success in those playoffs, he's not sniffing $25 million a year from anyone, including the Denver Broncos. Now, if he does, I could see him getting it. And I could see, as much as I hate to contemplate it, I could even see the Broncos giving him that money if he were to achieve those things I just mentioned.
Great expression.
Short term, like a 2-year deal, $50 million, come back, first year is guaranteed. Let's go, and then they draft a quarterback.
I can't stomach that. I'm sorry. $25 million for a potential backup, and that backup is Teddy Bridgewater. Not even a dynamic backup. Closed mouth doesn't get fed. Squeaky wheel doesn't get gets the grease or doesn't get the grease. That applies to Bridgewater as well. But that wheel is closer to falling apart than it is getting the grease in Bridgewater's case. He's not going to, like you said, sniff anywhere near $25 million. I would say more realistic is 12 or 15 million. And even that is questionable.
Yeah, Ronnie wants to know, was a good pickup? Ronnie, you the man, by the way. He's a solid, oh crap, we need a guy pickup. If you can sign a guy in week 15 to your practice squad that's a former first-round pick and under 30, all right? I think Zach, as an example, he's got more juice than the last Alabama safety they signed off the scrap heap in Mark Barron, right? Safety / dimebacker. Clinton Dix, I think, has a little bit more juice, a little bit more life left in his career than Barron did when the Broncos signed him. And remember, when they signed Barron, they paid him some money, man. And I think he appeared in 1 or 2 games. He just hit that hamstring. He couldn't stay on the field. He couldn't stay healthy from training camp on. But Mike Reno, Teddy has been told by Fangio that he is as good as Tom Brady. So why not ask for comparable money? Yeah, in so many ways, right? When you get compared to an all-time great, you can't help but kind of start comparing yourself to that and maybe even buying into the hype a little bit, whether it's true or completely delusional, as this particular one was.
I mean, some Broncos fans are using the Broncos record right now and the fact, like you said, they're playing meaningful December football, whatever that's supposed to mean, and the fact that he hasn't committed as many turnovers or turnover-worthy plays as Drew Lock or the years past. But why are we celebrating that? Isn't what he was supposed to offer? I mean, isn't that what he was supposed to bring is stability? Why is that suddenly a dunking point for his supporters? I'll never understand the dichotomy in the Broncos fan base.
Here we have Mohamed Badri. What's going on, big dog? He's got a tribute to DT now in his YouTube profile pic. It's great to see you, my friend. Another Mount Rushmore superstar here at MHH. And he says, good evening, rock stars. Right back at you. Hope baby Malik's doing well, my friend. Travis Weber jumping in, leading the board on Facebook in the month of December. Appreciate you, Travis. He says, good evening, Chad, Zach, Broncos country. I saw that Denver signed Clinton Dix to the practice squad. Is there something going on with the secondary? No, but, you can infer that, and it's possible. One thing, for example, that Vic Fangio revealed when he was explaining why during his victory speech after the Lions game, he gave a game ball to Kareem Jackson, who didn't have a particularly prolific day, right? It's not like he made some like game
He
clinching.
loves him some Kareem Jackson.
Oh, dude, he loves Kareem. But when he was asked about did you say Kareem Jackson is one of your favorite all-time players, and that whole explanation, we learned within that explanation that Kareem has been nursing a painful and kind of just like nagging shoulder, and that the one play in particular that Fangio highlighted where he just came flying out of the freaking blue and stopped a play from I think it was on a third down from moving the chains. And when Vic saw him lay that hit, he was like, with the shoulder that has been bugging him, he's like, I don't think he's getting up from that. And he did. And that, of course, earned him even more props and whatnot. But the only thing I can wonder on this, Zach, is maybe they are a little bit more worried about whatever's going on with Kareem's shoulder than they're currently letting on. Because if we look at the practice report today, Kareem Jackson is listed with a back injury and did not participate. Neither did Kaden Stearns, for what it's worth, with a shoulder neck. So there's probably just a preemptive deal. He might, for what it's worth, Zach, Clinton Dix might only be on this roster or the practice squad as long as it takes for one of those guys to get off the injury report.
Exactly. Yeah, it's insurance at the most basic level. I was going to say Kareem Jackson's play style. He's like a missile every time he comes in and runs support, Chad. He's always throwing his neck first, his head first. And I agree with someone said here. I think it's K-Hop that said Reem hits too damn hard and needs to chill. And don't forget that he took out a teammate last year. AJ Bouye concussed him. So that's his play style. So I think the Broncos are hedging against that. What also occurred to me a few minutes ago, though, one of George Payton's hallmarks of acquiring talent this season has been for competitive advantages. And who was Clinton Dix with partially this year? Vegas. Who do the Broncos play in a few weeks? Vegas. That could play a part in it as well, knowing George Payton, Vic Fangio, and how they operate.
James Boyd, good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. He says, much love, fellas. Keep living the dream. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Right back at you, my friend. He says, thank you for bringing superb content and hope families are all well. He wants a new young head coach. I feel you. You might get your wish, my friend. You might, but it definitely depends. It's one of those bittersweet things, right? Because Broncos fans want their team to snap the streak and get back to the playoffs. But they also don't necessarily want Vic Fangio to survive 2021.
It's quite the conundrum. It's like wanting the Broncos to win, but wanting them to have a better draft pick. It's like, which do I hope for? It's a win-win, though, in that case. Whatever happens is a decent scenario that you can justify, but I can't put a new coach in your stocking before Christmas, but I guarantee you if the Broncos lose a few more games, you're going to have one right after the new year, and it'll be a very merry new year at that.
Travis Tarbox, what's up, big dog? He says, I'm just curious why they signed Clinton Dix. I think Kaden Stearns definitely ready to start next to Simmons. Jackson probably gone after this year. Yeah, he probably is gone, and especially if Vic's gone, Kareem's gone. If Vic comes back, I could see them once again slapping together a little team-friendly, incentive-laden deal for Kareem to stick around because, as you mentioned, Vic loves him some Kareem Jackson. But as we just covered, Travis, I know you got that in a little bit earlier in the stream. We're just now getting to it. There are some injuries to monitor at safety. Two of their top three safeties didn't practice today, so a little preemptive insurance.
You know, and I don't think Vic Fangio or the coaching staff really trust Jamar Johnson yet. I mean, he was kind of behind the eight ball as a rookie, and he never caught up to the level that Kaden Stearns is at. But I think I figured out why they picked up HaHa, and Twitter can thank me. It's because this is confirmed now. They will be going after Aaron Rodgers.
There you go. Connect those dots, man. It doesn't take Sherlock Holmes. Lando, don't call me Calrissian Lee. Appreciate you, my friend. Another great, consistent supporter of ours on Facebook. You demand, Lando. Mike Reno, what happened to our other tight ends? Are they injured or demoted? Well, by other, what are you talking about? Because Noah Fant and Albert Okwuegbunam have been pretty consistently available for the team and as productive within the offense as you can expect from a Shermer Bridgewater passing attack. And even today, Zach, Vic Fangio complimented Noah Fant on the topic of, hey, how do you see an emergence from Noah Fant as a multi-dimensional tight end in terms of, we all know about his receiving and explosive, playmaking ability, but as a blocker. And he said this, that quote, I do think he put more of an emphasis on himself along with the coaches to improve his blocking. I think he's done that the last couple of weeks. I thought his catch that he had, that 32-yarder the other day, was a really good catch. Some are harder than others. Some take more talent than others, and that was one of those higher-end catches and plays. Really good to see. Should be good for his confidence, and I agree with what you're saying, and I do think Noah Fant has emerged as a multi-dimensional tight end.
The only talent it requires is arm talent to get Noah Fant the freaking ball. Throw it up to him and see what he can do. He's a first-round draft pick for a reason, and they never gave him the opportunity. And this kind of ties to a point I wanted to make a few seconds ago. When we say Teddy Bridgewater, Pat Shurmur passing attack, I raise a motion that we should put attack in quotations. Because it's not an attack at all, Chad. It's like bringing a water gun to a super soaker fight.
Right. Hey, Clayton, shout out to you. Good to see you, buddy. Okay, Travis. Also, what happened to Jamar Johnson? Well, similar to Baron Browning, at a very inopportune time in training camp, I'm trying to remember the exact timeline, but he got hurt, and then I want to say he ended up on the CV list. Didn't end up playing as much as you would hope that he would in the 3 preseason games. And then along the way, Zach, we see Kaden Stearns like right out of the gates pop, and so he's just been stuck behind the number 3 safety, which is Kaden Stearns. And in fact, I would hazard to say Jamar Johnson's probably number 5, because PJ Locke, I think, is a little more trusted right now by the coaches than Jamar. And a big reason for that, I mean, Jamar Johnson's got some serious ball hawk chops, and I can't wait till, or I hope he gets an opportunity to eventually be good enough to show that ball hawking acumen to Broncos fans. But you got to wonder why he can't outplay PJ Locke. But a lot of that, it's attributed to, in my opinion, the rookie learning curve and some of that bad luck he got this summer with when he got hurt. And, Wally Pipp, not to say he lost a starting job or whatever, but like when you go down, nature abhors a vacuum, right? Someone's going to fill it. And if that someone who fills it knocks it out of the park, bad news for you.
Nature versus nurture, Lodge. Nature always wins.
That's right.
And the thing about PJ Locke is I think Fangio likes him for he's been a player that's been hanging around the Broncos under Vic Fangio, and there's a lock on the Broncos roster that Vic Fangio does like. I just hope that Jamar Johnson isn't like the Justin Sternad of the safety group, where we thought he can be a starter, but he kind of fizzles out as a kind of a flyer type player or kind of a jag. I had high hopes for him, but Kaden Stearns has taken a massive leap forward, and he deserves right now starting reps opposite Simmons. Kareem Jackson's not the future.
Shout out to Michael. Good to see you, my friend, down in Tucson. Appreciate you. For what it's worth, I haven't given up on Justin Sternad. I think you got to keep in mind, he went from basically having to redshirt his rookie year. He got hurt like 2 days into training camp as a rookie in the pandemic training camp, right? So the coaches didn't even meet any of these guys, talking rookies, let alone see a single player until day 1 of training camp. Like August was when they met them for the first time. And then to get hurt 2 or 3 days into training camp. So he's got the wrist and he sits on, the bench all of 2020. And then 2021, it's basically, Zach, his rookie year, right? And he goes from, instead of being worked into the rotation and kind of learning as he goes, Josie Jewell goes down and they think, hey, he's our next most experienced guy in Vic's system because of how long he's been in the playbook. He's been in the playbook over a year now. That's who we're going to play. Turns out he just wasn't ready. And I think there's a chance he can still bounce back from that, but he was so not good. I don't want to say he was so bad, but he was so underwhelming that it does give me, Zach, cause to worry that maybe he's not going to live up to some of that hype of him being a big-time draft steal last year.
Well, you have to also figure this was essentially his rookie season after missing all of last year, and that was enough to take on for him. But also, he was penciled in to be maybe the ILB 3, and he found himself as the ILB 1 when the linebackers started going down. He was never cut out for that. It was a lot to put on him. And the fact that the Broncos linebackers still to this day are not getting much production from the defensive line, not named Draymond Jones. If they were to do more work up front, I think the inside linebackers would have an easier time.
Shout out to Yvonne, as you guys heard me mention at the top of the show, down in Mexico. He says, hey guys, today the NFL awarded Mexico as part of the NFL's International Home Marketing Area Initiative. Now, Mexico officially is Broncos country. Here's what he is talking about there. Whoops, I closed the wrong thing here. Bear with me 1 second. So let me just read this. Broncos have been awarded as an international home market area in Mexico, the NFL announced. In earning the IHMA bid, the Broncos will have access to marketing, fan engagement, and commercialization within Mexico as part of an important long-term strategic effort to build their global brand while driving NFL fan growth internationally. As part of that program, teams will have access to international markets for at least a 5-year term, during which a club will have rights to pursue activities in that international market that are consistent with what they can do in their domestic HMA. The Broncos can begin activating in Mexico January 1st. And then here is what, look at this. Look at who's the top here. The first quote. Senior Vice President of Strategy, Brittany Bolin, says, quote, and perhaps future owner, we'll see. With the help of Joe Ellis, Marisol Villagomez, and so many others, an authentic and expansive effort was made to highlight why the Broncos were deserving of this bid. The Broncos have a very passionate and well-established fan base in Mexico, and we are thrilled with the opportunity to expand our outreach in that region to bring our, I'm going to botch that. I'm just going to say fans, all right, closer to Broncos country. And you know what, Zach? In our analytics, we see it. There are a lot of Broncos fans in Mexico. We say this all the time. Broncos country, not a geographic location. It's a state of being. It's wherever you are. But it also goes, there's a higher concentration of Broncos fans in Colorado and the greater Rocky Mountain area. And there is a high concentration of Broncos fans in Mexico. We see it in our analytics, both in the articles and the podcasts that are watched and listened to.
Yeah, in terms of the Broncos getting a game there, I'm kind of apathetic, one way or the other. It'd be kind of interesting to see the international series play out, including Denver. A lot better than having the second Monday night game in week 1 at, 10:20 on the East Coast, Chad. But the Broncos, considering how bad they are in prime time or in a national audience, how bad could they possibly be in a different country? So it's one thing to monitor.
If and when they play in Mexico City as their home international market, one good thing the Broncos will have going for them is pretty used to playing at altitude, baby. And Mexico's even higher than Denver. Travis Tarbox, do you guys know, and by the way, Mike Reno, peace out, buddy. We'll see you later. Do you guys know where we are picking in the first round of the draft next year, and what number are we, or is it to be decided? It's definitely to be decided. That's contingent unless you own another team's pick, which that team's pick is also going to be contingent on how they finish. But I want to say, I'm trying to remember, Eric Trickle had an article about it. They're somewhere between 11 and 15 right now, something like that. Maybe they've fallen a little bit farther. But anyway, Keaka, thank you, bro. He says, got to run, y'all. It's Kai's 12th birthday. Just know I love you guys in Broncos country. And as always, go Broncos. Aloha. Hey, give Kai our best. Wish Kai a happy birthday from Mile High Huddle and the Huddle Up podcast.
Appreciate you, bro. Have a good night.
You the man. Symbolic super chat, $12. That's cool. All right, we are at 42 minutes. Zach, there is one other thing I wanted to grab from today's media availability, and I think Teddy Bridgewater brought up a fair point. All right, when he was asked, I want to get your take on this, about kind of the lack of getting Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick involved in the offense, right? I got to get your take on this because it was, to be honest with you, one of the most riled up that I've seen from Teddy. Michaela, you're so awesome. Thank you so much. Another generous super. She says, I think as fans, we need to keep the faith and support our Bronco players. Amen. And you know what? Teddy Bridgewater is a Bronco. So let's read what he said here. What's the key to getting Cortland and Timmy more involved? Quote, and again, he showed a lot of kind of emotion, atypical of the very deadpan, steady Teddy. Quote, at the end of the day, we're winning. Are you though, really, Teddy? You won, right? You win one, you lose one. You win one, you lose one. You win one, you lose one. At the end of the day, we're winning. That should be the most important thing, no matter how we do it or who has a great game. I'll point out, I watched the New England Patriots play last Monday. I think it was the first football game I watched all year. Quarterback threw the ball 3 times, which is true. Crazy. You think anyone was in the locker room pouting? I'm at that point, and I'm trying to get guys to understand that it's hard to win in this league. Whenever you come across those wins, doesn't matter how, as long as you win. We celebrate, then we talk about it come Monday. Hey, Can I get involved a little bit more in the offense? Our coaches have been doing a great job of trying to get guys involved, but at the end of the day, Zach, it just comes down to winning, close quote.
I hate all of this. That was the first football game he's watched all year. We're in week 15 now, Chad. I mean, I want my quarterback to be a little more in love with the game than that. He's talking about the Patriots game. Well, that was a special circumstance. There was a bad windstorm, blustery winter storm, whatever it was that dictated that. And also, I seem to recall the Patriots have something that the Broncos don't. I can't put my finger quite on that. Is it Bill Belichick? Maybe. Josh McDaniels? Maybe. Comparing those two things, maybe that previous super chat was right, Chad. Maybe the comparisons to Tom Brady really are going to Teddy Bridgewater's head.
I'm telling you. By the way, Jermaine Daughtry, thank you for the stars, my friend. That's a new name that we're seeing on Facebook supporting what we're doing here. So, Jermaine, thank you and welcome. Appreciate you. Stick around and keep it going. You'll work your way into the raffle for the Broncos jersey that we're going to be giving away at the end of this month, raffling off. Speaking of, we got to update where things stand on Super Chat for our great YouTube community. Just like on Facebook, we have it's not so much a goal, but we're making sure we can give back to our YouTube audience and community as well. Top 5 finishers on Super Chat, all right, are going to go into the raffle for the Broncos jersey of their choice. So we'll be giving away 2 jerseys, one to Facebook, one to YouTube. And here's the rankings. The DWI guy is continuing to throw down. He is just on fire, mostly because he's across the pond. He's on the morning show. So a lot of you listening to us right now or watching live, you're going, the DWI guys, we hardly recognize those. Those dudes are prolific on the morning show. Broncos for breakfast. He's still at number 1. Michaela right behind him at 2. Najal Taf at 3. Chris Hernandez, great friend, great member of our community at 4. And the God King himself, Mark Langley from Georgia at number 5. And then Kayaka just outside. Cody Dubb just outside. Casey Nickel, Corey H. just outside. Doug Henninger, Diamond Rattler. So Malachi Smith, you can kind of see where everyone stands. But we will be doing little packages that go out to each tier. We'll raffle off a little tier. But the jersey, only the top 5 finishers on Super Chat will be in that raffle. Andrew says, and we're about 46 minutes tonight. We got to keep it a little bit tight because there's some things going on. But let's grab a couple more. Andrew says, I like Melvin Gordon, and I'm somewhat pleased with Teddy Bridgewater giving us meaningful football, but I digress to Zach. We need a new quarterback / head coach / OC combination and a few more. But hey, hope for Zach's first playoff analysis of the Broncos. You know, that's true, Zach. You have a chance here, my dog, to break that ice on the Broncos side of your professional, NFL media career. That would be kind of fun.
It would be fun, but if they back in and they retain Fangio and they get blown out in the first round of the wild card round, Chad, and they keep Fangio around for another year, is that worth it than them not making the playoffs, firing Fangio, getting a new coaching staff, and maybe having continual playoff success, getting into the playoffs and winning a few games, making some noise, getting back into the Pat Bowlen standard and that territory? So as much as I want to cover a playoff game or even a winning season, except for 2016 when they went 9-7, I want what's best long-term for Denver, and what's best long-term might be a new head coach, coaching staff, and quarterback combination.
Hey, Albert, appreciate you, my friend. One of our great paying subscribers, supporters on Facebook, who said that a great report from Eric Trickle this afternoon, who was reacting, Zach, to the story of what Teddy Bridgewater had to say about his rumors. If you guys want access to that VIP premium podcast content, just become a supporter on Facebook. Go to our page, facebook.com/milehighhuddle, big blue button at the top. I think it's $5 a month. You're in like Flynn, helps keep the lights on, and you get access to those shows that no one else does for now. So, Albert, appreciate you. Scott, I cut one off that you were throwing on, though, right when I flashed. There we go. Travis Tarbox says, all the mock drafts I've seen have us drafting Liberty quarterback Malik Willis in the first round. Any thoughts? Yeah, in fact, today, Zach, Luke Patterson had an article for us kind of reacting to Todd McShay's latest mock. I don't know if it was his first mock of the 2022 draft or not, but he had the Broncos taking Willis in the first round. What are your thoughts on Malik Willis as a prospect, as a first-round caliber prospect for this team?
We're going to get so many questions about this between now and April, and I'm going to have, until they make a decision and we know for sure, my answer is always going to be, who's the coordinator? Who's the head coach? I mean, who's going to be in charge of that quarterback? If it's Pat Shurmur, I don't want a quarterback, least of all Malik Willis, who needs a lot of elite refinement. He needs a lot of good coaching development under his wing, and that's what the Broncos don't have right now. Kenny Pickett is my guy that's climbing up my draft boards. He might not be the highest floor guy, but I think he might be one of the higher ceiling guys. I've seen comparisons to Herbert. I saw one AFC exec compare him to a better version of Johnny Manziel, which I don't really agree with. I think two different play styles completely, but there's so many quarterbacks the Broncos can go with. None of it will matter, though, if they don't have the right coaches to develop them. We saw this play out the last 4 years. So Malik Willis is one guy in the mix for sure. I like Kenny Pickett personally.
On that topic of Malik Willis, I like him, don't love him. I'm not convinced he's first-round caliber, but there's a lot of rows left to hoe on that front, and I'll have a more concrete, developed take on that once the season ends and things slow down a little and I can spend a little bit more time watching his film and stuff. During the football season, guys like Zach and I, we're responsible to grab all the news and be on top of the Broncos news. So we don't have as much time during the season to check out these prospects. Once the season and the news grind cycle comes to kind of a halt, we can start letting our hair down a little bit. But I like him. I'm just not convinced. And I was a little bit surprised, Zach. He's only 6'1". For some reason, I wasn't aware that he's a 6'1" Q. Speaking of which, Trevor Sundell was asking us about another 6'1" quarterback named Baker Mayfield. This is something we've talked about before, and then we'll grab Donald here. I love the idea. If you could get Baker Mayfield, I'd love it. Twice on Sunday, dude, all day long. I just don't think, Zach, the Cleveland Browns, this is not necessarily a topic I think you and I share a brain on as far as Baker in Denver, but why would the Browns, after so many years of obscurity, finally get a modicum of stability under center, modicum of a competitive team? And I know this year hasn't gone their way, but then you move on from a first overall pick. Like, I don't see that happening.
Well, supposedly there's a lot of, I don't want to say bad blood, but clashing going on between Baker. This is all rumors and speculation right now between Baker and Kevin Stefanski, the head coach / OC. So if Stefanski, he's the long-term guy there, it looks like. If he wants his own guy, he wants to pick his quarterback, Cleveland might allow him to do that, and Baker might be on the way out. I wouldn't blow what it would take to acquire him, though. Signing him would be, what, $30 million a year? I mean, I don't.
Oh, yeah.
That's not, to me, what he deserves so far in the NFL. I was a big Baker guy coming out of college. I thought he was going to be the next real deal franchise quarterback, 15 years, all pro. It hasn't played out that way. A lot of baggage, a lot of personality issues, and the talent hasn't been realized. And you can't blame the supporting cast and you can't blame the coaching. He's had everything delivered to him and he hasn't made the hay. I'd rather the Broncos once again find their own guy through the draft, or failing that, they want to go after a veteran. Just aim a little higher and go after AR or Russell Wilson.
Yeah, on that topic, the Broncos did love Baker Mayfield. If he was going to be there in 2018, they would have taken him at pick 5 instead of Bradley Chubb. We know it was Baker and Darnold that they liked. And if either was there, according to what we've been told, one of those guys would have been picked.
They tried trading up for Darnold.
Right.
Jets wouldn't move out of that.
Jets wouldn't play ball. How they rue that decision, I mean the Jets, that is. Donald, thank you, buddy, for the super chat. He says, I'm checking out at a gas station right now while this stream's playing on my phone. ND, what does that mean?
And
the guy behind says, are you a Broncos fan? He then says, hey, I listen to MHH all the time. Hashtag stated thing. That's rad, dude. Love it. Love it. It's a small Bronco world, is it not?
Shout out, dude, at the gas station. Hope you're listening right now. Appreciate
Hey, dude, thank you for that anecdote. We love hearing stuff like that. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. All right, 52 minutes. We're about out of time. So any of the last burning super chats that are waiting, let's grab them. Thank you for your patience, and then we got to go. Collection Connection, who we've seen on Super Chat a time or two. Welcome back. Thank you. What do you think? What do you think we would be looking at if Drew Lock started this season? Not from now, but when he was riding high on confidence after a good preseason. So if after the Lock and Teddy competition traded blows, both with good performances, the Broncos, as they were in their respective starts in the preseason, the Broncos make the traditional decision to go ahead and stick with the incumbent whom they've invested in and drafted, and it's Drew from the start, what would your answer be?
Well, this is such a hot button question, and I know we're going to step in some crap for giving our answers here, but I don't care like usual. There's some good and bad with starting Lock. First of all, if you started Drew Lock, you'd still have KJ Hamler because Teddy Bridgewater got him injured. With a hospital ball, you'd have your deep threat. I don't think you would run the ball as many times, though. I don't think you'd be forced to run the ball and find out how good Melvin Gordon can be or Javonte Williams can be. And I also don't think that Pat Shurmur, and as we saw last year, would tailor the offense to Drew Lock's strengths. He wouldn't throw deep balls. He doesn't uncork the offense. He doesn't run anything creative, anything down the field. Everything's a check down. So as we've come to find out in hindsight, compared to August or the preceding months, Teddy Bridgewater is the perfect quarterback for Pat Shurmur, and Drew Lock is not. So
here's the problem. We could sit here and speculate. I think if the Broncos would have stayed a little bit more patient with Drew, they could have seen something close to, as far as the record stands, something close to where they're at now, if not even a little bit better. But I know it was never meant to be, because when the Broncos brought Teddy here, they postured it as, hey, we're going to let them compete. Chips are going to fall how they're going to fall. We'll pick the guy that gives us the best chance. Meanwhile, they wanted Teddy. It was going to be Teddy, barring some kind of collapse on Teddy's part. And so I know that in that world, if Drew would have just, his performance, if it would have been just so undeniable, Zach, and he gets the start, they can't quite go to Teddy, they can't sell it, it would have been, one game losing streak, 2 at the most. He's getting pulled and you're not seeing him again anyway. Like, they moved on from Drew long before the decision, in my opinion, Zach.
Well, what just occurred to me, and I think it's true, is that Drew Lock never had a chance of winning the job. The only opportunity was for Teddy Bridgewater to lose the job. They were, like you said, they were framing it to always go with Teddy. And to the last, I think it was CC with that super about the hospital ball. Yeah, knee injuries are a freak occurrence, but that knee injury happened as a direct result of the ball that Teddy threw, and it wasn't a one-time thing. He's been throwing hospital balls all season. He threw one against the Lions. That's just what he does, because he doesn't have the arm strength like Lock to make those tough throws to the sideline or get the ball out there before a defender closes in. You can be a Teddy Bridgewater fan, CC, but you have to call it like it is.
All right, Scott, are there any more that we haven't grabbed? Okay. Guys, thank you so much for another fun conversation here, breaking down your Denver Broncos. It's our Denver Broncos, isn't it? Zach, if you wouldn't mind getting us out here, I'm going to pull up Facebook, see how we finish there, and shout some people out.
This was the Huddle Up Pod. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you all for tuning in with us. We're off until tomorrow night for the Mile High Mailbag Week 15 and the breakdown of the Broncos-Bengals game. In the meantime, until we see you guys next, follow us on Twitter at Huddle Up Pod. You can follow the main account for all your Broncos news, analysis, rumors, film breakdowns, transactions, and more at Mile High Huddle. You can follow Chad on Twitter at Chad and Jensen. You can follow myself at Kelberman NFL. Follow Scott on Twitter at Scout Kennedy. And if you haven't, go to huddleuppod.com and get yourself a hat just like Chad's wearing. Get yourself a football priest beanie. Not a football priest, but a Huddle Up Pod beanie. Broncos for breakfast beanie. That's a hard sentence to say. Brand new in the store, right off the presses, available right now, huddleuppod.com. And if you haven't, go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Hit that big blue button. Chad mentioned Trickle Zone with Eric. We also have Kelberman's Corner with yours truly, and Broncos Book Club with Chad each and every week. VIP programming, $5 a month, worth every penny, I promise you that. And facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Like that page, follow that page. If you haven't already, go to Apple Podcasts and leave your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win maybe a beanie each and every month. But if you can't do any of those things, do these 3 things. Subscribe, like, and share. It takes a few seconds and helps us reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Yes, indeed. And by the way, for the Broncos book club gang that are reading along with me, we're reading Slow Getting Up by Nate Jackson. We had to cancel Saturday's episode because Christmas, it was my birthday, things were going on. I was just tied up with family the entire day. But it's coming back this Saturday, all right, noon Mountain Time. So let not your heart be troubled. We're going to grab, I want to show you guys the top finishers on Facebook, but it's being a little bit slow. So bear with me just for a second here, and it should pull up. Okay, there we go. And let me just blow it up so you guys can see here. And we'll do the old share screen, and then we got to dip on out. But shout out to these supporters on Facebook. Here's how you finish tonight. Andrew Baker on top, followed by Mike Reno, Yvonne, Jermaine, what's going on? Travis Tarbox. And then we got George Fox, Lando, don't call me Calrissian Lee, Travis Weber, Michael Ronquillo, Cameron, Wadman. Thanks to each and every one of you. And then one last thing, as Zach mentioned, we are really trying to calls to action. We need you guys to, even if you're not enjoying the show on Apple Podcasts, we need you to go there and leave us a 5-star review. Very, very helpful in keeping this show growing and thriving. And when I say this show, it's not just Huddle Up. All of our podcasts are under one RSS feed. So when you go leave a 5-star review, even if your football priests are not your favorite podcast, go leave a 5-star for your favorite MHH podcast, because it all helps us reach new like-minded Broncos fans just like you. And we'll raffle off. For the month of December, randomly selected. If you left a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, you got a chance to win some swag at the end of the month. Shout out to Air Lunar for their 5-star review right at the beginning of this month. So appreciate you guys. And with that, love you. We'll see you tomorrow night breaking down, the Bengals. We'll roll our sleeves up, do some head-to-head, and really get into the matchup.
Have a great night, guys. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.